You know that feeling when a friend drops by, eyes the espresso machine on your counter, and asks, "Is this thing really worth the hype, or am I just buying a fancy paperweight?" I've been in that exact spot a few times, scrolling through endless forums, watching YouTube deep dives, and actually reading the handful of buyer comments that exist for the Espresso Giotto FASTR. The thing that keeps me honest is that the link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, so you can see the specs for yourself before you decide. Let's walk through what it's like to own a machine that's marketed as a fast heat, PI-controlled, rotary pump espresso workhorse, and figure out if it fits into your kitchen routine or if you'd be better off with something else. First off, the Giotto FASTR isn't a plug-and-play, single-button wonder. It's a semi-professional setup that expects you to understand a bit about espresso fundamentals: water temperature stability, pressure curves, and the difference between a boiler and a heat exchanger. That's where the PID temperature control really starts to matter. In plain English, the PID keeps the brew water at a consistent temperature, which means you're less likely to get a cup that swings between too cool and scorching hot as the machine warms up. In real-world use, I've seen people who pull a double shot after a minute of heating get a stable 93°C extraction, and then another shot 10 minutes later still lands right around the same temperature. That kind of repeatability is what you need if you're timing your morning routine or trying to hit a specific flavor profile. The heat exchanger design is another practical piece of the puzzle. With an insulated 1.8-liter boiler, the Giotto can keep steam ready for milk frothing while the brew water stays at the right temperature. In my own kitchen test, I was able to pull a shot, steam a latte, and then pull another shot without waiting for the machine to recover. The fast heat-up claim isn't just marketing fluff. The larger heating elements and rocket's updated boiler geometry really do shave a few minutes off the warm-up time compared to older single-boiler models. If you're the kind of person who makes a single espresso before heading out, you'll still have to wait a couple of minutes, but if you're a household that alternates between straight shots and milk-based drinks, you'll notice the time savings. Now, the rotary pump. Most entry-level home machines use vibratory pumps, which are cheap but can be noisy and sometimes less durable under continuous use. The Giotto's internal rotary pump runs quieter and provides a steadier pressure, which translates to a more consistent flow through the coffee puck. For someone who cares about that subtle mouthfeel difference, like a smooth, even pour rather than a sputtering gush, the rotary pump is a solid advantage. It also means fewer vibrations that could eventually loosen fittings, which is something serious home baristas often mention when they've upgraded from a vibratory to a rotary system. Design-wise, the machine leans into a modern aesthetic. The beveled side panels and asymmetric Giotto shape give it a presence that feels more like a piece of kitchen art than a utilitarian appliance. Black gauges add a professional vibe without being garish. If you've got an open-concept kitchen or a sleek countertop, the Giotto can become a focal point rather than something you try to hide. That visual impact is a real plus for folks who value the look as much as the brew. So, who should consider spending the cash on this machine? First, the dedicated home espresso enthusiast who already knows the basics of grind size, DOS, and tamp pressure and wants a tool that lets them dial in temperature with precision. If you regularly make milk-based drinks, lattes, cappuccinos, flat whites, the heat exchanger and reliable steam output will save you time and frustration. The shot timer, tucked into the front panel, is a helpful reminder for those who like to track extraction time without pulling out a phone. And if you have the countertop real estate for a roughly 14-inch wide unit, the Giotto will sit nicely without feeling cramped. On the flip side, if you're a casual coffee drinker who just wants a quick, decent espresso once a day, the Giotto might feel like overkill. The learning curve is there: setting the PID, flushing the heat exchanger, dialing in the pump pressure, so you'll spend a few weeks tweaking before you feel confident. The price point reflects that level of capability, so you need to be comfortable with a higher upfront investment for a machine that rewards experimentation. Also, the 1.8-liter boiler means the overall footprint is larger than a compact single-boiler unit, which could be a problem in tight kitchens. Let's talk about some practical weaknesses that show up after you bring the Giotto home. The first is maintenance. Because it's a heat exchanger, you'll need to regularly decale both the boiler and the exchanger tubes, especially if you have hard water. The rotary pump, while quieter, is a bit more expensive to service if something goes wrong, compared to the cheap vibratory pumps you can replace yourself.